What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop and welcome to the second part of my video covering 151 facts about every single Kanto Pokemon. If you haven't seen the first part of this video, I do recommend doing so by clicking the iCard at the top right corner of the screen. However, if you need a brief explanation, basically what we're doing here is we're covering one distinct and unique fact about every single Pokemon in the Kanto Pokedex, making for 151 facts total. In the last video, we covered the first 76 Pokemon in the Kanto Pokedex, and today we're going to be covering the next 75. There's a lot of Pokemon to cover in this section, including all of the legendaries, and I'm really excited to share these facts with you guys, so why don't we go ahead and just get started. Ponyta's Pokemon Stadium and Fire Red Dex entries state that it can jump over the Eiffel Tower and Ayers Rock, which resides in Australia. According to Rapidash's Pearl Dex entry, it has astounding acceleration. From a standstill, it can reach top speed within 10 steps. If you were wondering how fast that top speed was, by the way, according to its other Pokedex entries, that speed just so happens to be 150 miles an hour, meaning Rapidash can go from 0 to 150 in 10 steps. Pretty crazy. In the odd and strange facts category, Slowpoke is the only Pokemon whose national Pokedex number is the same as its weight in pounds when you round it down. When it comes to its evolution Slowbro, Slowbro's Pokedex entries state that if the Shellder on its tail is removed that allowed it to evolve, that it will revert to its Slowpoke form, confirming that de-evolution is a thing in the Pokemon world. Taking a look at Magnemite, in the Pokemon Red and Blue Beta, Magnemite was originally known as Coil, which is the same as its Japanese name. Looking at its evolution Magneton, Magneton has actually been used by more rival characters than any other Pokemon, being used by Blue, Silver, and Wally. Farfetch'd was also another Pokemon that was planned to have an evolution that was recently revealed in the Gold and Silver Beta demo. From data mining, we found out that this evolution's name was Madam, implying that this evolution was going to be female or at least feminine in nature in some way. According to its Pokemon Yellow Dex entry, Doduo's short wings make flying difficult, so instead this Pokemon runs at high speed on its legs. However, obviously Doduo doesn't have any wings, so I don't really know what this is referring to. Once again, looking at the Pokedex entries for its evolved form Dodrio, Dodrio can run at 40 miles per hour while its pre-evolution Doduo can run at 60 miles per hour. However, even though this is the case, Dodrio's base speed stat is still higher than its pre-evolution. Once again, taking a look at the Pokedex, Seal actually love cold temperatures, and they are even active in bitter cold temperatures of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Coming up next is its evolved form Dugong, and in the Pokemon Red and Blue Beta, Dugong was originally known as Manatee. Now, this might sound much worse than the name that we have now, however, Dugong is just as bad because Dugong is also literally the name of another type of seal-like animal. Moving on to Grimer, we actually have an interesting coincidence where Alolan Grimer is actually the color of shiny regular Grimer, and shiny Alolan Grimer is actually the color of just regular Grimer. With its evolved form Muck, Muck can actually be found in the Power Plant in Pokemon Yellow, which is actually a reference to the way Ash found his Muck, which was also found in a Power Plant since Pokemon Yellow is based on the anime. So of course we all know of the scenario where Shellder latches onto a Slowpoke's tail in order for it to evolve into Slowbro, and even though the Shellder's form changes drastically, it is not considered a different Pokemon. However, this might have not originally been the case at all, because in the Gold and Silver Beta demo, we actually see this form of Shellder taking up its own Pokedex slot, indicating it might have initially been intended for it to be its own Pokemon. Moving on to its evolution Cloyster, according to the Crystal and Yellow Pokedex entries for this Pokemon, it has an insanely hard shell, being described as harder than diamonds, and also being stated that even a missile can't break it. Moving on to Ghastly, who actually looks a lot like Cloyster, no other Pokemon has the same type combination as Ghastly or its evolutionary forms. However, despite its unique type combination, Ghastly and its family are the only Poison-type Pokemon that are actually weak against Dark-type moves. When it comes to Ghastly's evolution Haunter, Haunter is the Pokemon with the most cry changes throughout the series, having its cry changed in generations 2, 3, and 6. The final form of this evolutionary family, Gengar, is actually the favorite Pokemon of the art director of the Pokemon series himself, Ken Sugimori. When it comes to Onix, there was actually an episode of the anime called Hooked on Onix, which is obviously a reference to the Hooked on Phonics program that was in the 90s, and frankly, I just think that's fantastic. Moving on to Drowsy, Drowsy is literally just known as sleep in Japanese. With its evolution Hypno, Hypno's red, blue, and leaf green Pokedex entries all make reference to it being able to use Psy moves, as in just PSI, possibly indicating that this was the original name for the Psychic type in English. Coming up next, we have Krabby, and in Pokemon Yellow, Krabby's encounter rate is 70% as opposed to in Red and Blue when its counter rate is only 33%. This once again is definitely a reference to the anime since Pokemon Yellow is a game highly based around the TV show. Following this same referential trend, Kingler is able to be found in Yellow only by fishing on Route 25. So it's pretty obvious that Voltorb is based on a Pokeball, with even its shiny coloration possibly being based on a Great Ball. The design of Voltorb itself might actually come from when Pokemon was known as Capsule Monsters, because during the days of Capsule Monsters, Pokeballs didn't actually have a button in the middle, much like Voltorb's appearance. Oddly enough, Electrode actually has a short song dedicated to it written by the group Suzuki-san, which was an official Pokemon rap group established during the early days of Generation 1, believe it or not. Exeggutor, even though it's literally just eggs, actually does have something pretty interesting going for it, because it's actually the Pokemon with the most heads, having 6 heads in total. Its evolved form Exeggutor is actually Tsunekazu Ishihara's favorite Pokemon, who is the CEO of the Pokemon Company. The reason for this is because he used one all throughout his debugging and testing of Pokemon Red and Green. Meanwhile, Cubone is actually Midori Harada's favorite Pokemon, and if you're asking who Midori Harada is, well, might I direct you to the beautiful artwork of Ecruteak City that was drawn for Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, because she is the artist who drew it. For Marowak, Alolan Marowak is the only dual-type Pokemon with a pre-evolution that does not share a type with its pre-evolution, given the fact that Cubone itself does not have an Alolan form. Moving on to Hitmonlee, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan are the only Pokemon who were not previously related through some sort of evolutionary family that later gained a pre-evolution that they both share when Tyrogue was introduced. Taking a look at Hitmonchan now, Hitmonchan is a boxer Pokemon whose gloves are naturally red, as most boxing gloves are. However, when you look at its shiny coloration, the gloves turn to a blue color, and this could possibly be a reference to the red corner and the blue corner in boxing. On top of this, it's mentioned in various Pokedex entries how Hitmonchan needs a rest after fighting for 3 minutes, which is a reference to how long rounds last in boxing. Next up is Lickitung, and we have what is probably the weirdest fact on this video. Lickitung was actually listed in the credits of the N64 game Paperboy under the Special Edition Thanks heading. Next up is Koffing, and we actually have a couple of different interesting claims as to where Koffing was originally discovered. According to the anime, Koffing was first discovered in a public bathhouse, while according to the TCG, Koffing was discovered in a weapons factory. Coming up next is Weezing, and in the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum Pokedex entries for Weezing, it states that triplet forms of the Pokemon, with obviously 3 heads, have been discovered. However, this variant has not been seen as of yet in any Pokemon media. Next up is Rhyhorn, and ironically enough, Rhyhorn was the first Pokemon chronologically to be writable when writing Pokemon became a thing in Pokemon X and Y. This is ironic because Rhydon, its evolution, was the very first designed Pokemon overall as well. Speaking of Rhydon, its Japanese name is Sidon, which is also the name of the fan-favorite character Sidon from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Coming up next is Chansey, and Chansey is actually known as Lucky in Japan. On top of this, it is also known as the Egg Pokemon, which means Chansey is literally a lucky egg, which just so happens to be the name of an item that is used to give your Pokemon extra experience when they hold it. In the Pokemon Red and Blue Beta, our next Pokemon Tangela was originally known as Medusa, which is obviously a reference to Medusa of Greek mythology, referencing the hair-like vines that Tangela has on its body, looking similar to Medusa's snake-like hair. Moving on, we have Kangaskhan, and Kangaskhan is actually listed at a whopping 7 foot 3 inches tall. However, it only weighs 176.4 pounds, which, if you don't really keep track of height and weight correlations that much, this means that Kangaskhan is severely underweight because it probably should weigh at least 250 pounds, if not more. Horsey's original artwork from Pokemon Red and Blue actually depicted it as having 2 fins instead of the one that we know today. However, this 2-fin design was also referenced in the anime episode Alola Kanto. Horsey's evolution Seadra is also the only Pokemon that can have the ability Poison Point without being a poison type itself. Up next is Goldeen, and even though Goldeen uses Splash in all 4 of the times it appears in Super Smash Bros, as well as even the recently released Pokemon Quest, it actually cannot learn it at all in any of the main series Pokemon games. Speaking of Goldeen having an odd moveset, Seaking as well as Goldeen are the only Pokemon that can learn the HM move Waterfall through leveling up. Keeping the move facts going here, Staryu is actually one of the few genderless Pokemon who can actually learn the move Attract in Generation 2. Its evolution Starmie is also classically known as basically an alien because it is not from this world. However, given the fact that it is also based on a starfish, this makes Staryu as well as Starmie literal actual starfish since they're from outer space. Coming up next is everyone's favorite Pokemon, Mr. Mime, and the most infamous Mr. Mime of all time has to be the one that Ash's mom takes care of and has taken care of since the Indigo League season of the anime. However, even though Mimey, as he's called, is constantly referred to and joked about as being male, Mimey was actually referred to as a female in the Brazilian and Portuguese dub of the very first episode of the Alola arc of the anime, Alola to New Adventure. Next, we've got our boy Scyther, and the interesting thing about Scyther is that it actually has the exact same base stats as its evolution Scizor, even though it's technically supposed to get stronger. This makes Scyther the only pre-evolved Pokemon that has the exact same base stat total as its evolution. An interesting fact about Jynx is that Jynx's sprite in the Virtual Console version of Pokemon Yellow that was released for the 3DS is actually impossible for a Game Boy Color game to have. This is because Jynx's Virtual Console sprite actually has 5 different colors, but actual authentic Game Boy Color games can only store up to 4 different colors per sprite. Next up is Electabuzz, and Electabuzz is actually depicted with 6 fingers on both of its hands, believe it or not, in Pokemon Stadium. Now, Magmar is actually the butt of a lot of jokes in the Pokemon community for a number of different reasons, one of those reasons being that its Japanese name is Booby. However, even though this sounds really funny at face value, it's actually not super crazy because Magmar itself is actually based on a bird that is known literally as the Booby. Up next is Tauros, and Tauros, like a couple of other Pokemon on this list, was designed by Shigeki Morimoto, the person who is responsible for giving us Mew. Up next is Magikarp, and leave it to Magikarp to actually have a really interesting fact about it. Magikarp is actually tied with its evolution Gyarados and Regigigas of all Pokemon for being the lowest possible level Pokemon encountered in the wild, and it's actually tied again with its evolution Gyarados for being the highest possible level Pokemon encountered in the wild. The reason for this is because in Platinum, Magikarp can actually be found anywhere from level 1 to level 100 in the resort area, and in Black and White 2, it can be found at the same levels in the nature reserve. So we've been talking a lot in this video about the Pokemon Red and Blue beta and how the names that came from it really sucked. However, this is an exception because Gyarados' name in the Red and Blue beta was Skullkraken, and honestly, I kinda wish it still had that name. Next up is a fan favorite Lapras, and Lapras is actually the only character in the Pokemon anime who has been shown to age during the show's time frame. When Ash was reunited with it during the Johto arc of the anime, he actually didn't recognize it right off the bat, and it was actually shown to have physically matured from the time that Ash was with it during the Orange Islands. Another fan favorite Pokemon is Ditto, and prior to Generation 6, Ditto and Poliwag actually had the exact same cry. Next up, we have the namesake of the latest Pokemon games, Eevee. Eevee's name is actually very interesting because not only is it a palindrome, meaning you can spell it the same way forwards and backwards, it actually only takes 2 letters to spell Eevee's name, which is less than any other Pokemon's English name. When it comes to Vaporeon, in Generation 1, Vaporeon actually had a significantly different design, with the back of its ears being all black, it had fins on each leg, and it had a fin running down the entire length of its back. However, all of these details were removed in Generation 2. What's even weirder about this though is that these details weren't actually present in the original Pokemon Red and Green artwork for the Pokemon. For our fact on Jolteon, we actually have something that could technically be applied to any of the Kanto evolutions, but it's still super interesting. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, Red actually owned an Eevee that was known as V. Now the reason why this applies to Jolteon is because this Eevee is special in that it could evolve into any one of the Kanto evolutions, Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon, and back anytime it wanted, because it was experimented on by Team Rocket. Flareon was designed by Motofumi Fujiwara, who designed several of the evolutions and has designed Pokemon for almost every single generation. Moving on, Porygon is the only Pokemon that evolves by trade twice. It evolves once into Porygon-2 by trading it while holding the upgrade item, and then a second time from Porygon-2 to Porygon-Z by trading it while holding the dubious disc. In addition to this, it is also the only Pokemon in a 3-stage family that does not require leveling up to trigger any of its evolutions. Going back to the Pokemon Red and Blue beta, Ammonite was originally known as S. This comes from escargot, which is the French word for snail. Its evolution Amistar is also the only fossil Pokemon whose extinction has been specifically explained. The reason for its extinction is that Amistar's shell made it too heavy for it to move, leading the species to die from starvation. Moving on to the other fossil Pokemon of the Kanto region, Kabuto, it's been stated in Dex entries that even though Kabuto is a Pokemon that has been regenerated from a fossil, it's been found in extremely rare cases that there are still living versions of Kabuto that currently exist today. Looking at Kabutops, Kabutops is also another Pokemon who has a scientific name, that being Kabutops maximus. Yet another fossil Pokemon in Kanto, Aerodactyl, was actually the inspiration for the naming of the Aerodactylus, which is a genus of pterosaurs that Aerodactyl is actually based on. Moving on to Snorlax, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, if the player tries to interact with their Snorlax that is walking with them while at Mount Silver, the message will read, "Snorlax is feeling very eager." This is a reference to Red, who also has a Snorlax himself, who is obviously at Mount Silver. Now we are going to get into the legendaries with Articuno. In the opening of the anime episode Spring Fever, Todd actually points out a tall mountain in the distance that is Articuno's home. This mountain appears on the outside exactly the same as Ice Island, which is Articuno's home in Pokemon the Movie 2000. An interesting thing about Zapdos is that it actually possesses a type advantage over all other members of its legendary trio, and even its legendary trio master, Lugia. The final legendary bird of the trio, Moltres, is literally just known as Fire in Japanese. Just Fire, that's it. So, moving on, I guess. Looking at pseudo-legendaries now, Dratini gets its name from a combination of the word dragon and teeny as in teeny tiny. However, despite this, it's actually a pretty good-sized Pokemon, being almost 6 feet in length. When it comes to Dragonair just also happens to be the former name of an actual real-world airline that is based in Hong Kong. Moving on to Dragonite, its Pokedex entries talk about how it can circle the globe in just 16 hours. If these Pokedex entries were talking about our own world, it means that Dragonite is able to reach a speed of at least 1,500 miles per hour, which is twice the speed of sound. An interesting thing about Mewtwo is that in one of the Pokemon Mansion's journals, it actually states that Mewtwo's birthday is February 6th, which just so happens to also be slightly before Pokemon's birthday of February 27th. And last but not least, we have Mew. In the Super Smash Bros. Series, it has a 1 out of a 151 chance to appear in the first Smash Bros. Game. In Super Smash Bros. Melee, its chance to appear in a Pokeball is 1 out of 251, and in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, its chance to appear in a Pokeball is 1 out of 493. This, as you might be able to pick up, is a reference to how many Pokemon were in existence at the time of these games' release, having 151 Pokemon during the first Smash Bros., 251 during the second Smash Bros. Melee, and having 493 available during the time of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And there we have it, everybody. Now, honestly, you guys showed so much support for the first part, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this second part as well, and you certainly made it a lot of fun to cover all of these facts. If you guys did enjoy the video, though, be sure to give it a like because it really helps out. Let me know down in the comments below which one of these facts was your favorite, or let me know if there's another interesting fact you know of about one of these Pokemon that I didn't cover. Also, I'd really like to get your guys' opinion on what you think of this as a possible series, because I would really like to do this for all of the other regions' Pokedexes and Pokemon if it's something you guys want to see. Finally, be sure to give me a follow over on Spotify and check out some of my remixes there, because I'm going to be giving away a copy of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee if we can hit our follower and listener goals over there, which we're really close to. Just need a little bit more and I'll be able to give away some free games to you guys, which I am really looking forward to doing. Anyways though, with all that being said, I will be back on Saturday for another video, so hit that notification bell so you can know as soon as it goes live, and until then, as always, I will smell you guys later.